On the 10th of October 1999, the sound of a motorboat could be heard approaching the artificial island. There were nearly 10 people on board, but they had come to release just one Harpy Eagle. Her name was MV, and she would be reunited with a male named James, who had been released there 4 months earlier. To ensure that 15 years of research would not simply disappear, the team had attached a tracking device to her back. After everyone had moved deep into the forest, the team leader opened the cage door. MV stood still for a moment. Nearly a minute later, she spread her enormous wings, flew toward a nearby branch, and landed. Silence. Observation. For the first time in 85 years, the island had a true predator. Dr. Barrientos watched through his binoculars, but nothing unusual happened. Then, on the 4th day, MV suddenly swooped down and used talons nearly the size of a human hand to seize a sloth in a tree. Just 2 weeks later, what the 2 eagles had done proved the scientists' predictions wrong. The project ended in heartbreak 1 year later, but the 2 Harpy Eagles had already transformed the island forever. The scientists and all of us should be grateful to them. Most videos simply tell the story of 2 Harpy Eagles being released onto an island full of monkeys and stop at the surprising result. But we are going to examine the entire story in detail. An artificial ecosystem, predators brought back into it, an ending marked by an inhumane death, and questions that have never been answered. Every detail in this video has been cross-checked against Smithsonian records, reports from the Peregrine Fund, and scientific research. To make the story easier to follow in chronological order, we need to go back to where it truly began in 1914. Barro, Colorado was originally nothing more than the highest part of a forested range of hills. When engineers dammed the Chagres River to create Gatun Lake for the Panama Canal, water flooded the surrounding valleys, encircled the hilltop, and transformed it into an island. This place did not truly come into existence overnight. The 1,560-hectare red soil hilltop remained completely isolated for nearly the next 100 years. Although many large land mammals declined or disappeared because of the island's limited habitat, the area remained remarkably rich in wildlife. Surveys recorded approximately 65 troops of howler monkeys, with nearly 1,200 individuals, a population density several times higher than in nearby rainforests in Panama and Costa Rica. Capuchin monkeys, tamarins, 2-toed sloths, and 3-toed sloths also continued to reproduce steadily. Its clearly defined boundaries, low human presence, and easy accessibility turned the island into an ideal outdoor laboratory. The U.S. government finally took action. On the 17th of April, 1923, Barro, Colorado was officially designated as a nature reserve for scientific research. In March 1924, the first biological station opened with a budget of about $17,000. Do you know what scientists did there? Under the early leadership of entomologist James Zetek, researchers built living quarters, workspaces, and a network of trails to monitor trees, climate, birds, mammals, insects, and changes in animal populations. In 1946, management of the island was transferred to the Smithsonian. Today, Barro, Colorado is considered one of the most thoroughly studied tropical forests in the world. Do you remember the one crucial element we said was missing from this place? Something it needed to become a complete ecosystem? Predators. Jaguars, pumas, and Harpy Eagles all require territories far larger than an island, covering only about 15.6 square kilometers. This was a clear example of an ecosystem without an apex predator. BCI had reached a condition that biologists at the time did not yet have a name for: equilibrium. But it was a distorted kind of equilibrium. 5 species of monkeys lived together on the island, with no reason to fear the sky. Capuchin monkeys spent 80% of their time in the upper forest canopy, where there was nothing to protect them. This was the most exposed layer of the forest, and also the most vulnerable. The monkeys consumed seeds faster than the forest could regenerate. Century-old almendro trees were still standing, but beneath them, not a single young tree survived to replace them. Bird nests were repeatedly raided, causing nearly 1/4 of the bird species that once lived on the island to disappear completely. Sloth density alone was 2 to 3 times higher than in mainland forests where large predators were still present. Some species had become functionally extinct here, despite the island having been officially protected since 1923. Protected on paper. So, would simply bringing predators back solve the problem? It was not that simple. The same old issue remained: the island did not have enough space to support many predator species or a large number of them. So yes, that brings us to the two eagles mentioned at the beginning. The Harpy Eagle is one of the most powerful birds of prey in the tropical forests of the Americas. It once ranged from southern Mexico to northern Argentina. Its relatively short, broad wings, combined with a long, rudder-like tail, allow it to maneuver through narrow gaps between tree trunks. Females can grow nearly twice as large as males, and their rear talons measure about 8 to 10 centimeters long, powerful enough to lock onto sloths and monkeys in the forest canopy. But that size and lifestyle also make Harpy Eagles especially vulnerable. When forests become fragmented, the eagles are forced to fly across roads, farms, and residential areas. There, many are shot because local people fear they may attack livestock or humans. The Peregrine Fund has identified deforestation and gunfire as the two greatest threats to the species. Their range has shrunk by 60% since the 18th century. Fewer than 450 individuals remain in Panama. Every time an adult dies, years of future generations are erased from the equation. Dr. Sara Barrios had been studying Barro, Colorado Island since 1984. She had trend lines, and every one of them pointed in the same direction. The proposal was simple: release 2 Harpy Eagles on BCI. In 1987, the Peregrine Fund launched a Harpy Eagle breeding program. Because Harpy Eagles had already disappeared from Barro, Colorado, the conservation team did not capture wild eagles and bring them to the island. Instead, they selected 2 individuals born at the San Diego Zoo. Breeding pairs were carefully matched using birds from zoos across the United States, Ecuador, Panama, and Venezuela. Some pairs rejected each other for years. In 2001, the program expanded to the Neotropical Raptor Center in Panama. For the first time, outdoor enclosures were placed inside an actual tropical forest, creating conditions more similar to the environment the birds were being prepared to return to. Both birds were taken to Idaho when they were only about 3 to 4 months old. James arrived at the World Center for Birds of Prey when he was 118 days old, while MV arrived at just 87 days old. This is what it took to raise young Harpy Eagles through a single breeding season: 6,000 mice, 400 live rats, 7,000 frozen rats imported from overseas, 800 live rabbits, and 50 stillborn calves that were frozen and stored. And that was only the food. It did not include facilities, veterinary care, or the research team. The contrast was so clear that it almost needed no explanation. In the wild, a Harpy Eagle catches prey only about once every 3 to 4 days. That was why the researchers always limited human contact with the birds as much as possible. In 1998, 5 young Harpy Eagles, equipped with transmitters, were gradually soft-released in Soberania National Park. James and MV were the 3rd and 4th individuals. They remained inside acclimation enclosures for 4 to 5 weeks and continued receiving food until they were about 11 months old, when they eventually stopped returning to the feeding site. Before arriving on Barro, Colorado, James had lived freely for about 10 months, while MV had lived freely for approximately 14 months. They had no wild eagle parents to guide them, yet both were still able to find and kill prey on their own. That success was what led scientists to bring them to Barro, Colorado in 1999. And what happened next, you already know. James was re-released on Barro, Colorado Island on the 16th of June, 1999. Nearly 4 months later, on October 10, MV was brought there. Both carried radio transmitters weighing about 90 grams, allowing biologists to move through the forest with handheld antennas and track each signal. James was observed for a total of 623 hours over 89 days, while MV was monitored for 1,204 hours over 205 days. What the scientists needed to know was whether the eagles could continue living independently in their new environment. The answer came very quickly. James captured 25 prey animals, while MV captured 46 for a total of 71. But the results were very different from the image of 2 eagles simply swooping down and slaughtering monkeys. 38 of their prey were sloths, accounting for more than 53%. Howler monkeys made up 16 kills, while white-faced capuchins accounted for only 3. On average, James captured 1 animal every 3.7 days, while MV captured 1 every 4.4 days. Sloths were suitable targets because they lived alone, moved slowly, and had difficulty reacting when an eagle suddenly attacked from beneath a branch. Of the 34 observed attacks on solitary tree-dwelling animals, 19 were successful. But among social species such as monkeys, only 7 of 30 attacks succeeded. A vigilant troop of monkeys was clearly much harder to defeat than a solitary sloth. That was what the scientists observed, but it was not the original goal. Do you remember? The real objective was far more subtle. They wanted to spread fear. Once the animals became afraid, they would be less willing to expose themselves openly and reproduce in such large numbers. To find out whether the project succeeded, keep watching. After the 2 eagles appeared on Barro, Colorado, open gaps in the canopy could become dangerous spaces, branches near monkey troops could become observation posts, and dense foliage could become shelter. That is a simple way to describe a landscape of fear, although the study did not officially map ambush corridors or prove that monkeys moved down to the ground to escape. Radio tracking data showed that the 2 eagles flew across nearly the entire 1,564-hectare island, but spent about 75% of their time within hunting areas of nearly 100 hectares in the western section. This meant that danger was not distributed evenly. A monkey troop living near an area frequently visited by the eagles could experience far greater pressure than a troop living elsewhere. To determine whether the monkeys truly understood the threat, scientists played 8 calls recorded from 4 Harpy eagles, including James, MV, and 2 individuals the monkeys had never encountered. Calls from native tinamous and unfamiliar bald eagles were used as controls. A speaker was hidden about 30 meters from the monkey troop, and each audio recording lasted an average of 159 seconds. The monkey's behavior was recorded for 5 minutes before the playback, during the playback, and for 10 minutes afterward. When the Barro, Colorado howler monkeys heard a Harpy eagle, they did not simply turn toward the speaker. They raised their heads, scanned the canopy above them, and remained alert even after the sound had stopped. Additional observations showed females clutching their young and retreating into dense foliage, while males moved to more distant positions and gave alarm calls. Even more remarkably, in 35 observed cases, when the entire troop remained vigilant and reacted in a coordinated way, the eagle often delayed its attack or switched to another target. When the response was confused or weak, or when certain individuals were not paying attention, the eagle was more likely to approach or launch an attack. The researchers proposed that Harpy eagle calls might serve as a way to test the prey's defenses, but they could not prove that the eagles were doing this intentionally. There was also another question. Would the presence of James and MV lead to the slaughter and collapse of the monkey population? According to the scientific reports, the answer was absolutely not. The 2 eagles remained on the island for only a short period and did not establish a long-term breeding population. Based on projections made by experts, a pair of Harpy eagles would capture only about 184 prey animals per year, just 1.43% of the island's potential prey population. This would include approximately 1.6% of adult howler monkeys, 13.2% of young howler monkeys, and only a very small percentage of 2-toed and 3-toed sloths. 1 year after the 2 eagles arrived on Barro, Colorado, this remarkable chapter of research came to an end in a way no one had hoped for. James had overcome nearly every challenge nature placed before him. He knew how to maneuver through the dense forest, hunt sloths, young monkeys, small deer, and peccaries, and survive without depending on food provided by humans. In every sense, James had become a truly wild eagle. But one day, James flew across the lake and left the boundaries of the protected area, a border that existed only on human maps. He was later shot and killed. The report does not fully explain who fired the shot or exactly what happened during his final moments. We only know that James survived claws, venomous snakes, and hunger in the forest, but he did not survive humans. MV did not receive a complete ending either. In 2000, she was recaptured for safety reasons and returned to the breeding program. MV was paired with a male identified as AC and laid eggs, but none were fertilized because the 2 birds never mated. There is no evidence that MV ever produced another generation. It is heartbreaking that the creatures whose presence changed the island in ways that can still be felt today should have met such disappointing endings. To prevent similar tragedies from happening again, another Harpy Eagle ambassador named Luigi stepped forward. Unlike James, the fallen hero who lived and died in the wild, Luigi remained close to humans in order to help protect his species. This ambassador bird visited hundreds of schools and reached more than 10,000 people, allowing children to see the beauty of Panama's national bird with their own eyes, a title officially given to the Harpy Eagle in 2002. The story of James and MV was only one small chapter in a much larger effort to return harpy eagles to forests where they had disappeared. Do you remember? The Peregrine Fund began its breeding program in Idaho in 1987 because the harpy eagle is one of the slowest recovering birds of prey. In the wild, a pair usually raises only one chick successfully every 2 to 3 years. The egg takes nearly 2 months to hatch, the chick remains in the nest for about 6 months, and it continues to depend on its parents for a long time afterward. If only a few adults are killed, the population may need decades to replace them. From 1987 to 2006, a total of 18 adult harpy eagles participated in the breeding program and produced 131 eggs, but only 44 chicks survived long enough to fly. In Boise alone, 36 of 65 eggs contained developing embryos, yet only 12 hatched, and just 11 chicks survived through the early stages of development. The hatching rate among fertile eggs was only about 29%. Researchers suspected that the dry climate, low humidity, limited natural light, frozen food, and the advanced age of some breeding birds all contributed to these failures. This shows that producing even a single harpy eagle, healthy enough to be returned to the forest, required people to overcome a long series of challenges lasting many years. The early failures did not bring the project to an end. Instead, they forced the Peregrine Fund to expand the program on a much larger scale. The breeding phase ended in 2006, and the last eagles still being held at the Panama facility were released in 2008. Across the entire program, 49 harpy eagles were returned to the wild in Panama and Belize. These included 39 captive-bred juveniles and 10 rescued birds or individuals that had previously participated in the breeding program. Among them were 24 females and 25 males. Release sites stretch from Siberian National Park, the Darien region, and La Amistad International Park in Panama to the Chiquibull Forest and the Rio Bravo Conservation Area in Belize. Some of the eagles later flew into Guatemala and Mexico. One individual appeared at Tikal, where harpy eagles had not been recorded for more than 30 years. Another traveled approximately 270 kilometers in 11 months, crossing vast areas of forest before dying near a forest edge inhabited by humans. In terms of adaptation, the results showed that the program achieved one important success. Of the 39 captive-bred juveniles, 27, equivalent to 69%, learned to hunt independently and survive on their own. However, the remaining 12 died before reaching that stage. This proved that humans could breed harpy eagles, raise them without allowing them to become overly dependent on their caretakers, and help them return to hunting natural prey. But that was only the first step. When the final tracking device stopped transmitting in 2011, the picture that emerged was both impressive and deeply troubling. Of the 49 harpy eagles released, 31 were confirmed or presumed dead, 15 had lost their signals and may still have been alive, while 3 had to be returned to captivity. In other words, for every 3 eagles released into the forest, nearly 2 were no longer known to have survived. Among the 18 cases in which the cause of death was clearly identified, 8 eagles had been shot, 44%, a higher share than any other cause. 4 were killed by other animals, and 2 died in accidents. The remaining deaths were linked to electrocution, snakebite, infection, and parasites. Do you see the painful contradiction? The eagles had learned how to hunt in the forest, but they could not learn how to recognize a gun from a distance. The program proved that harpy eagles could be bred, released, and taught to survive independently, especially when they were released close to the age at which they would naturally become self-sufficient. But no pair was confirmed to have reproduced successfully in the wild, and no new self-sustaining population was established. Some eagles died too soon, others dispersed too far apart to find a mate. In the end, the story of Barro, Colorado is not simply about 2 eagles released into the forest. It is the story of 3 species learning the same lesson. The eagles learned how to find prey, ambush animals among layers of dense foliage, fail, and then try again. They proved that a bird born in captivity could still learn to hunt and survive without humans bringing it food. The monkeys learned quickly as well. They recognized the calls of harpy eagles, understood that danger could come from above, learned to retreat into thicker sections of the canopy, hold their young tightly, and warn the entire troop before it was too late. But the hardest lesson belonged to humans. Predatory instinct was not the greatest obstacle. Breeding technology was not the most difficult part either. A protected area cannot fully protect a bird that can fly if just beyond its boundaries, that bird can still be hunted and killed. In the end, restoring nature is not only about returning animals to the forest, it is also about changing the way humans treat them. Do you think this project was a scientific success or a conservation failure? Share your opinion in the comments below and subscribe to the channel to continue discovering little-known stories of nature restoration.